Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield to a question.
Thank you. I'm reeling a little bit from the speed of all of this, and when I asked questions in committee, was told that the questions had already been asked and answered some weeks ago. But I still think I have a right to have questions answered respectfully. And I will say that I've had advocates and parents of trans kids texting to ask some of us what's in this bill. And one of the questions was, is the bathroom bill, the quote, the bathroom bill in here? And some of us said, yes, it is. And some of us said, no, it's not. So those of us who were in the Education Committee don't have a lot of clarity or agreement about what's in this bill. So, sponsor, would you please talk about what's commonly referred to as the bathroom bill? Could you explain what that is, what that does, what the impact would be on schools, and anything else you could tell us about that aspect of the bill? Thank you.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Yes. Section 3. No, I'm sorry. If I can find the correct page, I'll point you to that. There is the section here. Section what? Yeah, I was right there. Section 3, page 6. This outlines guidelines from the General Assembly, and it talks about the potential for disruption, unsafe conditions, potential embarrassment, shame, psychological injury to students, and that parents have a reasonable expectation that schools will not allow minor children to be viewed in various states of undress around other students of opposite sex. It then goes on to say that school districts will develop policy around these guidelines. We'll have a public hearing for that policy and then adopt that policy after those comments in public hearings. The main part of it does say that opposite sex shall not commingle in those facilities.
Lady from Jefferson 35.
Sorry. Thank you. Will the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
Can you talk a little bit about the impact that this will have on teachers and on classrooms implementing the piece that you just spoke about?
Gentleman from Lincoln.
I can only speak to my district, which has been fairly easy. They have already developed policy on this. They do not allow for different biological sex in their bathrooms, and they make arrangements for those who do not feel comfortable by allowing them to use a staff restroom or to ensure that there's no one else in those bathrooms when they go to use them. So it's not a very difficult thing for them to develop at all.
Lady from Jefferson 35.
Will the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
Are you concerned, or should we be concerned, that public hearings would be meant to shame the parent or the child asking for accommodations? And I want to clarify that a little bit. There's a lot of stigma around kids who are trans, kids who are non-binary. We've certainly seen the stigmatization that has happened within this chamber over and over and over again. And so we could maybe imagine that parents may be reluctant to ask for accommodations and subject their child to shame and embarrassment. So I'm going to rephrase my question. What protections would you recommend be put in place to protect the vulnerable children who are requesting accommodations and the parents who are seeking those for their kids?
Gentleman from Lincoln.
In the bill, it does not say that there has to be public comments on any individual recommendation. What it says is that the school board shall develop a policy based on these guidelines. They will already have to develop the policy. That is not to bring an individual student or individual parent in. They will have the opportunity, if they would like, to voice their opinion on the policy at the meetings, but it is not about any in particular one situation. The next subsection, in subsection 4 here, it says that the student will ask the school officials and they must accommodate. That is simply all it is. There is nothing public. There should be no embarrassment at all. The school officials will accommodate them.
Lady from Jefferson.
Will the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, can you explain the impact that this will have on healthcare providers?
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Absolutely none, as long as they don't perform gender transition surgeries.
Lady from Jefferson.
May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
This process was so terrible on an issue that is a matter of life and death to a very small number of kids, a very small number of families, but it is literally life and death for them. We talk about protecting children in this chamber and standing up and with everything we have to protect children. This bill will harm children. It flies in the face of every medical recommendation. It inserts government in between children and being able to access the health care that their parents are asking for. I've been a long time advocate for student mental health, for child mental health. For me, that has meant increasing mental health resources in our schools because that's where our kids are. Our kids are in schools. And if we want to improve the mental health and outcomes for our kids, that should be our point of providing services, our point of intervention. It is so painful to me that in this bill, we have made our schools the front line of the battle to hurt and exclude trans kids, non-binary kids, to tell our kids you are not welcome here. And I know that's not what our teachers stand for. It's not what our school administrators stand for. It's not what our parents want. We talk about the healthcare provider shortage, but we are criminalizing the practice of healthcare. We are criminalizing the practice of gender-affirming care, which is what every legitimate medical association, every legitimate mental health association tell you our kids need. We are inserting ourselves into that as if we were the medical experts. We are not. Honestly, I have so many thoughts swimming around in my head. I'm trying to make sense. I'm feeling a lot of feelings. I'm feeling a lot of feelings for the people who have been here again and again and again to speak out against this bill, to beg for their lives, for their children's lives, to be recognized, to be acknowledged, to be the people they were born to be. It's a lot of feelings. It's getting in the way of the smart words. But the feelings are sincere. I want people all across this state, if you're trans, if you're non-binary, if you're in the LGBTQ community, if you love people who are, please know that there are people here fighting for you. I want to thank the people of the 35th District who have reached out again and again and again and again and again to say thank you. Please keep up this fight. Our kids are too important. I want to thank the Kentuckians from all over this state who have reached out to me to say, my representative isn't standing up for me, but you are. Thank you. God bless you. Don't give up the fight. I will not give up the fight for any of you. I will not give up this fight until love wins. I will not give up this fight until love wins. And I will conclude by saying that there is one honest thing about this entire debacle that we have seen unfold over weeks and that we are finally seeing today. I'm looking at the title amendment. The title used to be on House Bill 470, as if I can recall correctly, an act related to the protection of children. Quite rightly, that language has been removed. This is now just an act relating to children. Well, this act does relate to children, but it's not about protecting them. So I thank you at least for that one bit of sincerity. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Fayette, 79.